2311 Racing is still talking about possibly expanding in 2022, and in very shocking fashion, Brad Keselowski might be headed to Roush Fenway Racing to become a driver co-owner. What's going on, guys? It's Daniel, and welcome back to our video. We have quite a few NASCAR stories to discuss here today on the channel. Let's go ahead and just jump straight into it. We're going to start off all the paint schemes and sponsor news. Let's start off with that really quickly. The first sponsor we're going to take a look at is BGM Class 2021, the quick salon and plumbing scheme that we're going to see at the Coca-Cola 600. They are honoring Reese Roberts at the Coca-Cola 600. Really awesome scheme, to be perfectly honest with you. The patriotic colors match very, very perfectly, especially since Coca-Cola 600 is on Memorial Day. I think they did a very solid job on that paint scheme, and it looks really, really awesome. The next paint scheme we are going to go ahead and take a look at is Tyler Ankram's 2021 Circle B diecast scheme that we are going to see this weekend here at Circuit of the Americas. The scheme looks really, really awesome in my opinion. Circle B's had some really, really awesome schemes, especially since they sponsored Nice Motorsports trucks. They've done a great job on those. If they're coming over to sponsor Tyler Ankram this weekend, it's great to see they're sponsoring him this weekend. And I think the colors look really, really perfect. And I'm definitely looking forward to see this one out on the racetrack at Circuit of the Americas. The next paint scheme we're going to take a look at is Spencer Boyd's 2021 Hair Club scheme that we are going to see, I believe, this weekend at Circuit of the Americas. Paint scheme looks really, really awesome, to be honest with you. Hair Club has sponsored Spencer Boyd in the past. I believe they've also sponsored him at points this year in 2021, if I remember it correctly. Really awesome scheme for sure. I like the Hair Club black on that. It's really, really cool. And I'm definitely looking forward to see this paint scheme out on the racetrack here, I believe, at Circuit of the Americas. The next paint scheme we're going to take a look at is Brandon Brown's 2021 Good Sands Club scheme we are going to see this weekend at Circuit of the Americas. Love the colors a lot. Really awesome that Marcus Monis is stepping up to play to sponsor Brandon Brown this weekend, especially since Brandon Brown was not sponsored before Marcus Monis came in and stepped up to the plate. Great to see that Marcus Monis is stepping up to plate and sponsoring Brandon Brown. I really do like this paint scheme a lot. The next paint scheme we're going to take a look at is Tyler Reddick's 2021 Kalahari Resort scheme that we're going to see this weekend here at Circuit of the Americas, I believe. Really awesome paint scheme, to be honest with you. Great to see the Kalahari Resorts is stepping into play and sponsor for a couple races this year. Really like it a lot. The blue, the black, everything on the car looks really nice. Definitely look forward to see this paint scheme out on the racetrack here in a couple weeks or this weekend at Circuit of the Americas. The next paint scheme we're going to take a look at is John Nemechek's 2021 Romco scheme that we will see at some point this year. What I really like about the scheme is the white on it, and the yellow number looks really, really cool on the car, too. Johnny Nemechek has definitely had a lot of different paint schemes throughout the year. This one is no exception. I really like this a lot, and I'm definitely looking forward to see his paint scheme out on the racetrack here at Circuit of the Americas. The next paint scheme we're going to take a look at is Austin Dillon's 2021 Work Right scheme that we are going to see this weekend, I believe, at Circuit of the Americas. I like the white on the car. I also like the green number on the car as well. It's really, really cool. I think they did a great job on this paint scheme for sure. And I'm definitely looking forward to see this paint scheme out on the racetrack, I believe, this week and at Circuit of the Americas, if I'm not mistaken. And the final paint scheme we're going to take a look at is Kyle Busch's 2021 Skittles Gummy scheme that we're going to see this weekend in the NASCAR Xfinity Series race at Circuit of the Americas. Looks very similar to his Joe Gibbs Racing cars in the Cup Series, of course. It looks really, really cool. Great to see the Skittles as a continuing partner of Kyle Busch. And it's great to see they're jumping down in the Xfinity Series to sponsor Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch had a lot of different Skittles paint schemes this year. I think they did a really good job on this one for sure. It's really, really cool. And maybe it will help Kyle Busch get his first victory in the Xfinity Series this year here in 2021. And now we're going to jump on to all the other major stories we discussed here today on the channel. Let's go ahead and just jump straight into those. We're going to start off with CMI Motorsports, as CMI Motorsports is going to be fielding 3 trucks at Circuit of the Americas this weekend. Brad Gross is going to be in the number 83 truck this weekend. John Abel will be in the number 49, and Sam LeConte is going to be in the number 72 truck. All 3 of these trucks are going to be drivers in these trucks are going to be making their NASCAR Truck Series debut this weekend if they're able to qualify in. Remember, CMI Motorsports is not a really fast organization, so I'm not really expecting CMI Motorsports to really have a shot to make the races, especially since it's going to be a lot more faster cars. But these guys do have, I believe, a lot of road course experience, so they could make it in. I would be surprised if at least one of these cars ends up making it, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, this is really intriguing to see how these guys are going to do. The fact that there's going to be 3 of these guys racing. I think this is the first time a CMI Motorsports has fielded 3 trucks. They've usually fielded either 1 truck or 2 trucks. They really haven't been able to make the races due to the regulations of practice qualifying, that they really haven't been able to attempt a race. I'm very sure to see how these guys are going to do. They definitely see my Motorsports definitely had some intriguing drivers come back. They had Ryan Reed come back a couple weeks ago, and now they've got 3 drivers attempting to make their debut. Really awesome opportunity for these guys, and I'm wishing the best luck for all 3 gentlemen, hoping that they will have a shot of at least making the race this upcoming weekend. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we are talking about Camden Murphy. As Camden Murphy is going to be racing in the NASCAR Truck Series race at Circuit Americas, driving in number 11 for Spencer Davis Racing. Camden Murphy has raced some truck race in the past. He's driven the number 8 for Joe Nemechek's organization, Nemco Motorsports. So he's driven in the Truck Series in the past. He's had very limited success. I think this is the best truck that he's ever been able to run. The 11 team has definitely had some speed at points this year. They had pretty solid speed at Atlanta earlier this year when Spencer Davis was able to drive. It's very intriguing to see if Spencer Davis has been working to get other drivers to drive their trucks. I mean, I think earlier this year when they had Bubba Walsh drive the 11 core, of course, they had a Tory backing with that. But I was very intrigued to see this. And yeah, really cool to Camden Murphy. He's definitely getting an opportunity. I think Camden Murphy, of course, the guy that's been in Monster Jam in the past too. I'm very intrigued to see how he's going to do, and very good to see that Camden Murphy is getting an opportunity in the number 11 car for Spencer Davis Racing. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we are talking about Spencer Pumpelly. As Spencer Pumpelly is going to be making his NASCAR Xfinity Series debut at Circuit Americas this weekend, driving the number 6 for JD Motorsports. Now, for a lot of you who do not know, because of this, Ryan Vargas is not going to be racing this weekend. Now, for those of you who are Ryan Vargas fans like myself, Ryan is only going to be out this weekend. Funding is a big reason why this is going to be the case. Basically, he'll be back at Charlotte. So, this is actually a really good move, though, in my opinion, to put Spencer Pumpelly in the race car. Spencer Pumpelly is a guy that's won a lot of GTD races. He's a guy that's won a lot of races on road courses. He's a very, very experienced road course racer. I believe he's won in the class in the Rolex 24, the GTD class, if I'm not mistaken. So he has have a lot of experience in road courses, in Trans Am cars, which are kind of similar to NASCAR cars. This is definitely a really good opportunity, and I hope with this, he can definitely help the owner's points front as well for this organization, because this car, I believe, doesn't have really good owner's points at the moment. And I'm very intrigued to see how he's going to do, because I think Spencer Pumpelly definitely has a lot of talent. He's a guy that's done really, really well, like I mentioned, in the Trans Am series and all that stuff. He's done really good in those races, the Rolex, and I think that definitely he will have a shot at least contending for top 25, because one of the big issues that I think that JD Motorsports has had this year is the fact they have such big inventory. They have 4 cars. I think they suffered this year, but when you bring a road course bringer like Spencer Pumpelly into your ride, I think your team definitely will have a shot of at least contending. But I think this is a really cool opportunity for sure for Spencer Pumpelly, and I'm wishing the best luck for Spencer Pumpelly here at Circuit of the Americas. And now we're going to jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we are talking about the SRX. As the SRX has signed a second non-endemic partner with Sun RV Resorts coming on board. Sun RV Resorts is a major company as well. They've already signed Progressive to be the first major non-endemic sponsor to be there, and now they have their second one. It's great to see the SRX is continuing to pick up brands. I think that they are going to continue to pick up a lot more brands as they get closer to the start of the year, which is less than a month away. June 12th is the debut for the SRX later this year. So they're starting to pick up a lot of them, and I do expect as we get closer to the start of the year for the SRX, I do expect that we're going to see a lot more sponsors signed. But it's really cool to see that the SRX is definitely picking up some more non-endemic sponsors. I mean, it's awesome to see this because, you know, it's the SRX definitely needs to be picking up more brands, because that's what they've been struggling, is to pick up sponsors. And now the last couple weeks have been starting to pick up some really big sponsors. Great to see the Sun RV Resorts Casino has become the second non-endemic sponsor to go into NASCAR. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we are talking about Boris Said. As Boris Said is going to be making his NASCAR return this weekend at Circuit of the Americas, driving the number 13 for MBM Motorsports in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. That's a name that I've not heard in quite a few years. I think the last time Boris Said raced in NASCAR altogether was around 2017 or 2018. I think he drove for Go Fast Racing or another organization. I can't remember exactly what team he drove for around 2016, 2017. But it's been a few years since Boris Said has raced all together. It's been quite a few years. A lot of you remember Boris Said. Boris Said won the 2010 NASCAR Xfinity Series race and Montreal, and was pretty competitive at times when he did race at road courses. And he almost won the Daytona July race, I think, in 2006, almost was able to beat Tony Stewart in that. So Boris Said definitely has a lot of experience. The legend is back, though. Boris Said, I'm so excited to see that Boris Said is coming back. It's been such a long time since Boris Said has raced, and I thought that there maybe one day could be an opportunity for comeback. And the fact that Boris Said is making his NASCAR Xfinity Series return is really, really cool. That being said, though, he's not going to be in a very fast car. I think his road course experience definitely is going to help him going forward this weekend at Circuit Americas. But I do think that one thing that will happen is I think he will struggle a little bit this weekend because he's not in a very fast car. But I've seen Boris Said overachieve in a lot of equipment. Like I mentioned, in 2010, he won in Montreal with not a very fast car where I've been in motorsports. He's been able to overachieve. I think the goal for him is a qualifying event because they're going to have to qualify into this event. And if he's able to qualify in this event and drive up to the front, I can see even the guy that's not been in the Xfinity Series for a couple years, I could definitely see Boris Said at least for sure contending for a top 25 or top 30 at least. We've seen the car long cars at least definitely have points contend for top 30s. David Starr almost, as a matter of fact, in this same car, almost got a top 15 at Homestead where we had the issues with Noah Gragson. But yeah, this is definitely a really awesome opportunity for Boris Said. I'm definitely looking forward to that for sure, that he's come back to NASCAR Xfinity Series. It's been such a long time since he's raced in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. And I'm definitely looking forward to seeing his comeback. It's been a few years since he's raced, and I'm really looking forward to see Boris Said come back to the NASCAR Xfinity Series and race for MBM Motorsports. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next major story of today's episode as we are talking about 2311 Racing. Steve Lauletta was on NASCAR Series 7 radio on the Money Drive with Hollywood Jeff and Brad Gillette on their radio show, and he talked about what he is focused on for the 2022 season. He talked about the possibility of expanding to 2 cars in the 2022 season. The things that he's really worried about, though, is the fact that there are no charters available at the moment, though we'll talk about that in a second, among other things that might end up being an issue for 2311 Racing potentially expanding. I think the big issue for 2311 Racing, if they are going to expand, is the charter systems. I do think they have the financial backing to do that. Yes, they're going to need about $15 to $30 million to be able to expand. They are building that shop in Huntersville, North Carolina to expand. I think that there's a good chance that they will have enough financial backing. The question is, are they going to be able to acquire charter? There was actually a recent report about a week ago that I did not cover on this channel, but there was a recent report that Spire Motorsports and Ricker Racing might be wanting to sell or might be able to either lease one of their charters or sell one of their charters. Ricker Racing said that they are planning only to run 3 full-time cars next year, meaning that they probably are going to sell one of their charters at the end of this year, which I think makes a lot of sense for Ricker Racing, considering I think if they only downsize 3 cars, I think they will perform a lot better. Spire Motorsports, Jeff Bashire, I think that's the guy's name, who runs the organization at Spire. He says that he would maybe like to downsize, but also maybe like to expand, and sell one of their charters, but might also want to buy another charter and expand his organization. So that's a big thing. I think the 2311 Racing, if they are going to expand, they will probably buy a charter from Ricker Racing. As big of a personality as Michael Jordan is, I think that definitely they would pick it up right there. The big question is that they are to expand in 2022, what drivers could they end up getting? So the drivers that are still technically free agents at the end of this year, you have drivers like Matt DiBenedetto who could end up being in the running, but we'll talk about Matty Dean a little bit because there's something we'll talk about on another upcoming story very, very soon. Drivers that I think that are definitely in the running to go over to 2311 Racing. The first one is Harrison Burton. Harrison Burton has 1 Cup Series start earlier this year at Talladega and has been pretty consistent in the NASCAR Xfinity Series this year. Last year, he won 4 races for Joe Gibbs Racing and almost made it to the Final Four, but then was not able to make it on points. Of course, he got eliminated in the first round at Talladega, but if we didn't get eliminated, he probably would have made it to the championship 4. He's been really consistent so far in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, and he does have quite a bit of experience in the Xfinity Series, and he's looking to maybe go up full-time to the Cup Series. The second driver is John Hunter Nemechek. John Hunter Nemechek does have some Cup experience, as a matter of fact. He's a full-time rookie in 2020 and has been dominating in the Truck Series so far this year, picking up 2 victories, but he's still the current points leader in the NASCAR Truck Series by a big margin. I think like by 40 or 50 points coming into this weekend. John Hunter Nemechek is definitely a big threat. He also does have a lot of Cup Series experience, and I think he went over to College Motorsports, not just go back down to Truck Series to win races, but I think he's looking at the future of possibly jumping up to 2311 Racing in the future if they are to expand. The third driver is Brandon Jones. Brandon Jones has been racing in the NASCAR Xfinity Series since 2015 and has been with Joe Gibbs Racing since the 2019, I think 2018 or 2019 season. But Brandon Jones last year in 2020 was able to win 3 races. Now, he's had kind of a slow start to the 2021 season, but he's been overall consistent as well so far throughout the year. And I think that definitely he could be another driver that's in the running to go over to 2311 Racing next year. The next driver up for grabs is going to be Daniel Hemrick. Now, Daniel Hemrick does have Cup Series experience. Last in 2019, drove for Rich Choice Racing and won Rookie of the Year, but he was really inconsistent and lost his ride in the after the season concluded. After winning Rookie of the Year, he lost his ride and did not come back full-time Cup Series. But he's currently racing for Joe Gibbs Racing, and he's been really, really good so far this year. And then the final driver is Ty Dillon. Ty Dillon has been racing at organizations in the Toyota stable. He's going to be back this week in racing for God Brothers Racing. On top of that, Ty Dillon does already have experience with 2311 Racing, driving at the Daytona Road Course for their first start at the Busch Clash earlier this year. I think definitely they could be looking at him since he's been in the Toyota stable, and technically he is a free agent right now. So let's talk about the driver that I think could end up going over to 2311 Racing if they are to expand. I think really it's going to come down to two drivers right now. I think it's going to either be Harrison Burton or John Hunter Nemechek. Harrison Burton, I think, is a very, very talented driver. I think that definitely that would be a great choice. Plus, he does bring sponsorship for companies like Hunt Brothers Pizza and Dex that could be really coming to play. And sponsorship could come into play, especially. I think definitely that he does bring funding as well. John Hunter Nemechek does bring some funding as well with Fire Alarm Casino. I think that's a company that sponsors him. Plus, he's a very, very talented driver, and he can work with Bubba Wallace and work with him and help Bubba Wallace's performance better, especially in 2311 Racing. Seems like their performance is starting to pick up after a very strong run at Dover, finishing 11th. I definitely think that there's a chance that that could be the driver. But yeah, that's the conversation on 2311 Racing. We'll have to watch as the silly season goes on and if the charters do become available. But I think there's a very likely chance that 2311 Racing could expand at the end of this year. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the final major story of today's episode as we are talking about Brad Keselowski. In very shocking fashion, it was reported earlier today by Jim Utter that Brad Keselowski has been offered a driver co-ownership role with Roush Fenway Racing for next season. Now, if he is to jump over to Roush Fenway Racing, he would take over the number 6 car for Ryan Newman. Keselowski's future has been a source of increasing speculation in the garage in recent weeks as he has been talking with different teams for the 22 season. If you would have told me at the beginning of this year that Brad Keselowski was going to end up leaving Team Penske earlier this year, I would have laughed at you. The fact that Brad Keselowski might end up leaving Team Penske is really, really crazy to me because Brad Keselowski has been at Team Penske since the 2010 season in the NASCAR Xfinity Series when he won the championship. And in 2012, he was able to give Team Penske their first ever championship in the 2012 season in the final year of Dodge. And Brad Keselowski consistently has been winning multiple race years. So far, he's only won one race at Talladega. But in the last couple years in 2020, he scored 4 victories. 2019 scored, I believe, 3 wins that year. 2018 scored a couple wins that year. Brad Keselowski is consistently winning 3 or 4 races here with Team Penske. And I know that Brad Keselowski is on a contract year this year, but the fact that he might leave Team Penske is really crazy. I know that there's been issues with him and Joey Logano in the past, but I think that could be one of the reasons why he could end up leaving Team Penske later this year. But wow, that blows my mind that Brad Keselowski goes there. So what happens to Roush Fenway Racing? Brad Keselowski takes over to 6. Remember, Roush Fenway Racing only has 2 cars now, and they only have 2 charters at the moment. I think there's a very good chance that Chris Buescher is going to return to the number 17 car later next year, though I've heard some interesting things going on in regards to Chris Buescher for the 2022 season. We'll have to keep watching that, but I've heard some very interesting things in regards to him. But I think that if Brad Keselowski does move over to the 6 car next year, I think that Ryan Newman is going to retire. Ryan Newman is on the last year of his contract, and I know he said he wants to continue racing, but he never said he wanted to continue running full-time. And Ryan Newman is right now, at this moment, currently the second oldest NASCAR Cup Series driver behind Kevin Harvick. So I think that there definitely is a chance that he could end up leaving and retiring at the end of this year, though he could also end up returning and racing next year in a potentially 3rd Roush car. So there's been talk maybe they could expand and go to 3 cars, but I really think that right now Roush is only going to end up being a 2-car operation. I think that Ryan Newman is going to retire at the end of this year. But this move is really, really interesting because this correlates to another race car driver who is around the same age that Brad Keselowski is right now. Tony Stewart. Tony Stewart was around 36 or 37 when he decided in 2008 that he was going to move over and own a team with Gene Haas. And a lot of people, kind of similar to what Brad Keselowski might be doing, a lot of people were really speculating this move because Tony Stewart was really successful with Joe Gibbs Racing. But let's be for real, Tony Stewart was not a fan of racing at Toyota. So Tony moved back over to Chevy because he liked being in the Chevys. And guess what ended up happening in the first year when he moved over there? A lot of people thought he was going to struggle. Guess what? Ended up going out there winning multiple races that year and almost winning the championship in the 2009 season, along with Ryan Newman almost making the playoffs in their first full-time year. And they've been pretty successful up until this year where SHR has struggled. I kind of feel like this could be the same thing that happens to Brad Keselowski, though I don't think he's going to have this same success. Maybe they'll build form alliance with Team Penske, perhaps. Who knows? But Brad Keselowski, like I mentioned, is around the same age as Tony Stewart, and he's been very, very successful throughout his entire career. And I think that there is a chance that he could move over there and be pretty successful and get him a couple wins. On top of that, Roush Fenway Racing has definitely been on the up and coming basically throughout the year. Chris Buescher has been really consistent so far throughout the year. He led a lot of the race at Homestead and almost contended for the win until falling out of contention, but he led a lot of that race and is currently still sitting around 13th or 14th in the points, still currently in the playoffs as we speak right now. So Chris Buescher is definitely overall consistent this year, and there's definitely a chance he could contend for a win later this year and maybe make the playoffs this year. You also have the fact that they've been making some big moves over at Roush Fenway Racing. They picked up LeBron James, of course, that's with the Fenway Association, but they picked up LeBron James this year. And I think the reason why Roush has been definitely improving on their performance is the fact that Jimmy Fenning went back to the engineering programs. And I think that the fact that they have Jimmy Fenning engineering these cars is a really big move, too. I think if Brad Keselowski does for sure move over to Roush Fenway Racing next year, Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing is what the team would be called, there is a really good chance that I think that Brad Keselowski could win a race or two at the team. I don't think Brad Keselowski right away is going to be a championship contender. I don't think we're going to see what happened with Tony Stewart when he moved over to his new organization. But I think definitely, absolutely, that Brad Keselowski definitely would contend and be pretty successful from the get-go. So if Keselowski is to move, the 2-car becomes available. And we know right now that Ryan Blaney and Joey Logano are going to be returning, and their contracts go through the 2023 year. So what happens with Team Penske for the 2022 season? Now, a lot of people think that Austin Cindric would move out of Team Penske, out of Wood Brothers, and go over to 2-car and race for Team Penske. Well, I think that there definitely is a possibility he can move out of Wood Brothers and go there. I think he'll remain with Wood Brothers at least through the 2022 season. I think what's going to happen is Matt DiBenedetto is going to remain at Team Penske next year if this move is going to end up taking place. And the reason I say this is Matt DiBenedetto, they have an option for Matt DiBenedetto for the 2022 season. And he's not racing at any organization as right now for 2022. But he has been saying on Twitter and speculating when it comes to next-gen car, I don't know if this is contract obligations or not, but he has been saying on Twitter that the Fords and stuff, that he's been speculating about maybe wanting to get into this Ford. I think there's a chance that Matty D is going to end up in the 2-car next year in the 2022 season if Brad is to leave. This is just speculation right now, but the fact that Brad Keselowski might become the next full-on team owner in NASCAR is definitely crazy and something I did not expect for the 2020 season. I don't think anybody expected Brad Keselowski to basically be leaving Team Penske at the end of this year, unless you're kind of insiders, because there's been speculation he might go to other organizations like 23XI Racing. But wow, the fact that Brad Keselowski might be leaving Team Penske, man, is absolutely crazy. We'll have to watch as the season goes on, but I think things are going to ramp up, and I think we're going to continue to see a crazy, silly season going forward. So, anyway, that is going to be for today's NASCAR news video. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please like, subscribe to the channel, notifications to be notified when a video does go live on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and support me on Patreon as well. Links description below for that, and comment your thoughts on today's video. Do you think Brad Keselowski is for sure going to go to Roush Fenway Racing or not and be a driver co-owner for the team? Let me know in the comments below. And what are your thoughts about 23XI Racing's continued talks of expanding, and who do you think will be the driver for 23XI Racing? Let me know in the comments below. Like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's video, and I'll see you guys next time for some more great and awesome NASCAR content. Take care, everybody.